Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Pan, and here are the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The battle for 2024 starts to heat up. 26 opposition parties named their alliance Indian National Democratic Inclusive Alliance, or INDIA. The BJP-led National Democratic Alliance also holds a meeting with 38 parties. The Sensex and the Nifty end with marginal gains after a late sell-off led by bank stocks. Shares of Reliance Industries gain with less than 48 hours to go for the demerger of Jio Financial Services. Stock exchanges will hold a special price discovery session on Thursday. G20 finance ministers and central bankers summit wraps up in Gandhinagar. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says all agenda items receive widespread support. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das says the crypto framework proposed by the Financial Stability Board recognizes that individual jurisdictions can ban cryptos if they wish to do so. Walt Disney takes Google to court over its App Store policy, joins 14 other companies to challenge Google's in-app billing policy at the Madras High Court, seeks protection for Hotstar's app from being delisted from the Play Store. As tomato prices remain stubbornly high, the Consumer Affairs Secretary says prices are likely to ease starting the first week of August. The government has sold 300 metric tons of tomatoes at subsidized rates. Also adds the government will import tur dal this year to help bring down prices. The Finance Ministry is unlikely to consider a review of the 28% GST imposed on real money gaming. That's as per sources. This a day after the Minister of State for IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, said they will approach the GST Council to reconsider the 28% tax once a sustainable regulatory framework is established. Sheela Foam to acquire rival mattress maker Kurlon for over 2,000 crore rupees. Also scoops up a 35% stake in furniture retail company Furlenco for 300 crores. The stock up 15% in trade today. Morgan Stanley and Bank of America beat estimates with quarterly earnings. High interest rates boost Bank of America's revenue. Morgan Stanley's wealth management unit delivers record revenue growth. Extremely dangerous and record-breaking heat wave grips the world. Parts of US, Europe and Asia suffer the most. Italy issues a red alert for 16 cities. Japan also issues a heat stroke alert. Forecasters say the intensity of the heat wave will get worse in the coming week. Well, let's start with the market action of the day. The Sensex and the Nifty ending the day marginally in the red after a late slide. The Sensex gained more than 150 points. The Nifty gained nearly 40 points after failing to hold on to early gains. Bank stocks under pressure today, with the Nifty Bank ending marginally in the red. Mid-caps continue to see some profit booking, with the index losing 50 points. On to earnings now. Ind.IND Bank's first quarter profits rose by over 30% year-on-year, coming in line with estimates. Net interest income increased 18% year-on-year at 4,800 crore rupees versus expectations of 4,125 crores. Asset quality remains stable, with gross NPA and net NPA seeing a marginal decline. And another IPO is on its way to Dalal Street. The board of Fed Bank Financial Services, also known as FedFina, has revived its IPO plan 17 months after filing papers to raise 900 crores. The IPO will be undertaken through fresh issue and an OFS. The public offer will be subject to market conditions, receipt of approvals, including that of SEBI, and other considerations. Shares of Infosys rose in trade after the IT giant signed a 5-year deal worth $2 billion with an existing client. Infosys will provide artificial intelligence and automation-led development services to the client, whose name has not been disclosed yet. This development comes ahead of the company's quarterly results on Thursday. Now, shares of Reliance Industries gained with less than 48 hours to go for the demerger of Jio Financial Services. The stock exchanges will hold a special price discovery session on Thursday. That's a day before Reliance's first quarter results for this fiscal year. Prashant is standing by with the details of the demerger and what we should expect on Thursday. Prashant, take us through what this means.
Big event over the next 48 hours is going to be the demerger of Jio Financial Services from Reliance Industries. Remember that at the time of declaring the second quarter 23 earnings, Reliance had announced the demerger of Jio Financial Services for a ratio of 1 equity share of Jio Financial for 1 fully paid up share held in Reliance Industries. Now, this is now basically taking place. The process of demerger is taking place starting Thursday morning. First things first, the record date or the ex-date to determine who is eligible to get Jio Financial shares is 20th of July. So if you own shares as of that day, you're eligible to get shares in Jio Financial Services. Now, naturally, Jio Financial is being spun out of Reliance Industries. The share price of Reliance will have to adjust accordingly, right? Lower. That would essentially depend. How much lower would essentially depend on the value, what the street gives as value to Jio Financial Services. I will get into that a little later. But let's just tackle the immediate next couple of steps. On Thursday morning, exchanges will hold a special price discovery session for Reliance Industries. To use an example, suppose at the end of that, 30, 45 minutes price discovery session on Thursday morning, Reliance Industries, say, closes at 900 rupees. This is just an example. And the prior close on Wednesday, that is tomorrow's close, is 1,000 rupees. Then that means the spun-off business, that is Jio Financial Services, will be quoted at 100 rupees. That is the difference between the price of the company undergoing the demerger, Reliance, on the day prior to the record date, and its discovered price in the pre-open session on the record date, which is Thursday. So 1,000 minus 900, 100 rupees will be the value for Jio Financial Services, using this as an example. Now, Jio Financial will also be included in indices specified by NSE. They published that list, including the Nifty 50, at this 100 rupee constant value. And it will continue to stay in the indices at this constant price of 100 till Jio Financial is listed. Remember, the date of listing is not known yet. But once Jio Financial is listed, at a future, yet unknown date, the stock will then be removed from the index after the end of the day on third day of its listing, subject to certain price fluctuation conditions. If Jio Financial, say, lists on day T, the stock will be delisted from the indices at the end of T plus 3 days. Now, just a word on the F&O impact for Reliance as well. In the run-up to the record date, which is day after, based on existing rules, all F&O contracts are going to expire tomorrow, as of the end of tomorrow. Now, to wrap this up, just a quick word. How is the street thinking about valuing Jio Financial right now? Well, markets are currently ascribing value only to the treasury stake of Reliance that Jio Financial would own. That's about 6% or so. And analysts are putting that number at between 160 to 200 rupees per share based on this holding. Of course, the value of Jio Financial would be higher, much higher, one presumes, as details on business strategy, targets, milestones, etc. are made public. And to that end, markets are expecting that the upcoming AGM will focus extensively on Jio Financial Services and the plans that Reliance has in that regard. Back to you.
Well, that is the standard disclaimer on your screens. Prashant, many thanks for joining us. And Thursday is what we are going to be watching out for. That is when we will see that price discovery take place. Now, the big political story breaking tonight. The BJP-led NDA will face off against the opposition's I.N.D.A. in next year's parliamentary elections. The 26-member grouping of opposition parties will be known as the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance, or I.N.D.A. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi, while addressing a meeting of 38 NDA leaders, said that theirs was a time-tested alliance. The 38 members included the AIA-DMK, the Shiv Sena, the Ajit Pawar faction of the NCP, Conrad Sangma's National People's Party, among others. Over close to two-thirds of these parties do not have a Lok Sabha presence. Meanwhile, opposition parties met in Bengaluru to chart out their strategy for 2024. Around a third of the 26 parties have zero Lok Sabha presence. In a joint statement, the parties have pledged to provide an alternative political, social and economic agenda.
आज देश के लोग 2024 चुनाव में फिर एक बार हमारी सरकार वापस लाने का मन बना चुके हैं, निर्णय ले चुके हैं। ऐसे में भारत की बदहाली के जिम्मेदार कुछ लोग अपनी दुकान खोलकर बैठ गए हैं।
The BJP government wants to destroy the democracy in this country, and also they want to destroy the constitution. They are using the autonomous bodies like CBI and ED. There is a grave situation. To save this situation, we have come together, and country is important for us.
Well, parallel meetings of the NDA and I.N.D.A. Joining me now, Payal Mehta, who's tracking the NDA meeting, and Harish Upadhyay, who's tracking the opposition meeting. Payal, Harish, many thanks for joining us. NDA versus India. Payal, to you first. Parallel meetings taking place today. The Prime Minister has just spoken, talking about what he believes is this opportunistic alliance that's being cobbled together. What's the mood like in the NDA?
There are two visuals to watch out for, Shireen, as far as this is concerned. You know, when the Prime Minister walked in and he was greeted by the leaders standing over there, it was in contrast to what the opposition parties have been claiming, that the BJP is a party of only a few as well. You saw Nephew Rio there, one of the oldest chief ministers in the Northeast region, EPS representing the South. You also had Jitendra Manjhi, who's representing the East, and of course Eknath Shinde also representing the West. And of course JP Nadda comes in from the North as well. So that's the complete picture that the NDA wanted to really portray, saying that we have presence all over the country and we are acceptable all over the country as well. There was a huge garlanding of the Prime Minister in the premises where the meeting is taking place, congratulating him for the kind of effort that has been made by his government over the last 9 years as well. So the larger message of the NDA is that, you know, we are united, we've been together. We are 38 parties. We've also given a lot of a sort of boost to the regional parties, in particular in the Northeast, where nobody really focused. And we're trying to, you know, get inroads where we never really had. So for Tripura to get a government of the BJP after 25 years of left rule is an achievement. That's the BJP. That's what the BJP has been saying as well. It'll be interesting to see if the BJP also, or the NDA in fact, just comes up with a name like the opposition parties really came. It's pretty unlikely, but they are going to take some steps forward. They're probably going to form some smaller groups among themselves to see how to take this alliance forward as well. Because, you know, when the invitation was sent to these ally partners or these allies to come and join the meeting today, one thing was also mentioned over there, that the Prime Minister is going to be present and he will talk about the Vision 2047. Now, the Prime Minister time and again has told his party leaders and also his ministers that this is not a short-term government. This is not a government which is looking at the immediate electoral benefits. We are here to govern for a very long time, and that's why we need to be very, a visionary in terms of our approach, whether it's projects, whether it's people, whether it's welfare. So all of this is going to be reflective in the meeting. We're still waiting to get an official head on, an official confirmation on what exactly he said, because his address today at the NDA meeting as a leader of the NDA, as the head of the NDA, will be extremely important.
Yes, it certainly will be. Harish, I want to come to you. The UPA has given way to India. And I have to say that as far as branding goes, it does have something about it. But what's the mood like in the opposition camp, and the statement that they've put out on putting together a cohesive alternative? What do you make of this first step of this exercise?
Well, remember, this is the second meeting, and everybody expected this opposition unit to go after some low-hanging fruits. They have done that by getting the name right. Now there are three major challenges. The immediate one: can these parties come together and have one stance, a consensus on what to do with UCC? Do they want to completely oppose it on the floor of the House if the BJP introduces it? Because remember, allies like VCK have actually put that demand today in this meeting, although it wasn't discussed. But two major challenges for this group. One is the leadership. The Congress seems to have opted out of it, saying that we are not interested in that PM seat if this group actually manages to gain majority. So who will be the leader? That's something they're saying we will discuss and decide in the coming few months. And they've formed a coordination committee, the names of which will be decided in the Mumbai meeting that will happen much later. But a bigger challenge really for this group is, can they have a good seat sharing arrangement? Because the thought process is to at least ensure that in 400 odd seats, you have only one candidate from this opposition group. But look at states like Kerala or in fact even West Bengal. All these places see Congress taking on its allies. For example, in Kerala, the Congress left and TMC are part of this opposition group. But they can they work together? Or in Kerala, is the Congress willing to give up some of its Lok Sabha seats and ask their sitting MPs to leave that seat for the LDF? That will be the real challenge for this opposition group.
Yes, many challenges on the road ahead, but these are just initial days. The first start towards 2024 in real earnest. Payal and Harish, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18 with your take on the two important political meetings of the day. Well, back to business now. Shares of Sheela Foam rose 15% in trade after the mattress maker confirmed that it would acquire rival Kurlon at a valuation of 2,150 crores. The company said the acquisition will help consolidate the existing fragmented market. Sheela Foam, which owns the brand Sleepwell, also announced its decision to buy a 35% stake in furniture rental company Furlenco for 300 crore rupees. More deals. Shares of Amara Raja Batteries tumbled nearly 6%. This after 16% equity change hands at an average price of 654 rupees a share. The buyers and the sellers in the transaction are not known at the moment. However, sources tell CNBC-TV18 that Clarios ARBL is likely to divest its 14% stake in the company. Tata Chemicals has acquired an additional 4.99% stake in Reliance India worth 209 crore rupees. The 97 lakh shares were acquired at a price of 215 rupees apiece. With this, Tata Chemicals has increased its stake in Reliance India to 55.04%. Shares of Reliance India gaining on the back of that news. On to CNBC-TV18 exclusive. API Holdings, the parent of Pharmacy, the e-commerce company, has agreed to raise 2,000 to 3,000 crore rupees via rights issue to repay its debt to Goldman Sachs. Sources tell us that the company's board has approved Manipal Group's offer to invest a shortfall amount if investors do not end up participating. Manipal Group has likely made a binding offer to invest up to 1,300 crore rupees in the online pharmacy. The other big story this evening, G20 finance ministers and central bankers wrapped up their summit in Gandhinagar. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said all agenda items have received widespread support. One of the key outcomes was the Financial Stability Board finalizing its recommendations for global crypto regulatory framework. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das said that the proposed framework recognizes that individual jurisdictions can ban cryptos if they wish to do so. Remember, RBI in India has vociferously sought a ban on cryptocurrencies.
Members welcomed the high-level recommendations of the FSB on crypto asset activities and also the global stablecoin arrangements. There were several members who did say it is so good that India has brought this issue on its priority and is working very well on this.
The FSB report, very importantly to address your question, also recognizes that individual jurisdictions have the choice to prohibit crypto if they so desire. So the FSB report recognizes that.
Yes, the finance minister said there was broad support for India's core agenda, which included MDB reform, cryptocurrency framework and digital public infrastructure. On MDB reform, the G20 members received reports which suggested that an additional $3 trillion in funding would be required for MDBs every year till 2030 to meet 21st century challenges, to make them ready for the future. So let's see what happens on that at the Leaders Summit. On the issue of cryptocurrencies, the FM said, and even the RBI governor said, that everyone recognizes now that cryptocurrencies can pose a serious risk to the global economy. The Bank for International Settlements, the FSB, have submitted important reports to G20 leaders. These will be reviewed. A synthesis paper will be prepared by IMF and the FSB, which will be submitted to the leaders in September. India is also circulating a note, and perhaps after that, some sort of roadmap for global regulations, a minimum standard, could be agreed upon. On digital public infrastructure, the FM said there was recognition that digital public infrastructure is important for financial inclusion and productivity gains as well.
Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. Wrapping up the action there at the G20 Central Bankers and Finance Ministers Summit. Tomato prices continue to soar across the board. The government has procured 300 metric tons of tomatoes from Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra, selling them at a subsidized rate in markets that are seeing a steep spike, like in Delhi NCR. Speaking to me earlier, Consumer Affairs Secretary Rohit Kumar Singh said prices are expected to ease by the first week of August as more stock comes in. Speaking about efforts to check tur dal price spike, the secretary said that the government is going to be importing more from markets like East Africa and Brazil to meet the shortfall and contain prices, as well as intervene using the buffer stock.
We have a fund mandated by the government, which is called the Price Stabilization Fund, and that fund is precisely for this purpose, to infuse commodities in the market for price correction. So I think as we speak, around 300 metric tons have been procured and infused. Very soon arrivals are expected in Madhya Pradesh, Aurangabad and some areas of Maharashtra. And I think by first week of August, the prices will start considerably coming down.
That's the hope. By the first week of August, we will start to see prices cool. As far as tomatoes are concerned, the government intervention is likely to continue till we see some improvement there at the retail level. Coming up next, Walt Disney takes Google to court over its App Store policy. That and more when we return. Disney India has officially joined 14 companies that have sued Google over Google's in-app billing policy. In a petition filed in the Madras High Court, Disney India has sought protection for the Hotstar app from being delisted from the Play Store. Jude joins us now with the latest. Jude, so now the big boys are joining the fight against Google at the Madras High Court. Take us through the details.
Well, it's a legal tussle involving two of the biggest names in entertainment and technology. Disney plus Hotstar, Disney India becomes the 15th company to file an appeal against Google in the Madras High Court itself. And the bone of contention is simply this: Google's in-app billing policy, or the GPBS, the Google Play Store billing service. In short, simply, the contention simply is that Disney plus Hotstar feels that the 15% commission that goes to Google Play on account of the billing service itself is not justified. They're now appealing for a permanent injunction against what it claims is a compulsion to use GPBS for all payments made on Hotstar itself, and also seeking out protection against being delisted on the Google Play Store itself. Remember, there are 14 other companies that have filed precisely the same appeal against Google, including the likes of Matrimony.com, Alt Balaji, and dating apps like Quack Quack and Truly Madly. In fact, senior counsel for Google, Mukul Rohatgi, did tell a single-member bench of the Madras High Court that as far as the appeal was concerned, Hotstar was in a position where it received a letter on the 11th of July where it claimed Google threatened to delist the app from the Play Store as early as today itself. The single-judge bench of the Madras High Court said it would list the matter for hearing based on the merit of the case itself. Back to you.
All right, Jude, appreciate you joining us. We will, of course, track that story very, very closely. Now, the Finance Ministry is unlikely to consider a review of the 28% GST imposed on real money gaming. Sources say there is no proposal for a review as things currently stand. This comes a day after the Minister of State for IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, said that MeitY will approach the GST Council to reconsider the 28% tax once a sustainable regulatory framework is established for the industry.
The process of creating a regulatory framework for online gaming is only started in January of 2023. And we are only in the early stages, nascent stages of creating a predictable, sustainable, permissible online gaming framework. And So we will do that, and we will go back to the GST Council and maybe request their consideration on the facts of the new regulatory framework.
The MIT regulations also talk about permissible online games.
Correct.
Although we can always, have different regulations for the purposes, different laws for the purposes of regulating an industry. You're aware, for lottery, there is a separate law. Each state is, some states are having lottery, some states have banned it. Taxing is a separate law than regulation. So while the MIT has regulations, and they have certain definitions, our definitions should be, and our attempt will be to align with them, but they can be different also.
So no review at this point in time is what sources tell us, as it comes on the back of the comments that came in overnight. And before we wrap, rising number of Apple users has made India Apple's 5th largest iPhone market, overtaking France and Germany. This is the first time that India has entered Apple's top 5 markets for iPhone sales. This as per Counterpoint research. Counterpoint says that India contributed close to 4% of all iPhone sales in the second quarter, growing 50% year on year. Well, on that note, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. You can log on to our website, CNBC-TV18.com, for the details on all of the stories that have played out here on the channel and catch up with the news that you may have missed out on. From all of us here on the team, for now, goodbye and many thanks for watching.